welcome to Deal Nation. On the show today, we're joined by Mark Podolsky, the founder of the Land Geek and author of Dirt Rich 1 and 2. Mark, how are you?
Michael, pulse is still normal. Respiration's fine. I'm such a big
Awesome.
fan of you and Launch Control. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Absolutely. So tell everybody where you are right now. You know, that wooden door background isn't going to give it away.
Yeah. So I'm in the Italian Alps of Bormio and absolutely loving here. It is just gorgeous and of just a really charming town, 1,000-year-old Roman town, known for their thermal baths and skiing. But it's cooler weather, less touristy here, and the gelato is delicious.
Amazing. And, you know, your various businesses are producing money while you're out touring around the Italian countryside. So that is or the base of the Alps. That's good living. That's good living defined, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that is the entrepreneurial dream. And
Yeah.
I really am proud that I've set up the business so I can work where I want, when I want, and with whom I want.
No, I love that. So, speaking of the entrepreneurial dream, were you a born entrepreneur? Was the entrepreneur spirit something you caught later? Like what got you to the entrepreneur track and then secondarily into land investing?
Yeah, I mean, I think my dad was an entrepreneur. He had a small wholesale grocer and he worked really hard. But I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to get my dad's approval somehow if I make money. And I remember like I was that kid at like 11 years old. I had like the lemonade stand and I got the approval that I was craving as a kid. And then I had like a cookie company. And then I
Hmm.
remember in high school, because my dad was a wholesale grocer, I got like the big Snicker bars and the vending machines didn't sell big Snicker bars. I'd sell them for $1. And I had no cost basis because my dad would just bring, a case home for my sister and I. And then I remember, being that sort of nerdy kid in high school where I was looking around like, oh my gosh, people need boutonnieres and corsages for these, proms and homecomings that I'm not going to. But what if I locked up on florists in town and I sold the corsage and boutonnieres for the floor? So I would do that in the halls. And so I was like the corsage mafia,
Yeah.
in high school. And so it sort of kind of continued and built from there until I forgot about it. And like, oh, I'll get a job. And I realized, oh my gosh, I hate my job. And
I love how many
like that.
entrepreneurial stories or entrepreneur stories started at like kindergarten. Because like I remember growing up, I remember those kids that would like walk around the schoolyard and sell candy or whatever. And I'd be, I don't know, running around with my friends and looking around being like, where's that kid? The kid that sells candy. The kid that sells candy is a millionaire now, almost guaranteed, because
Yeah.
that, that spirit they started learning really early. And it's interesting because I think one of the harder parts of getting into entrepreneur, like being an entrepreneur, is the courage to do it, right? Like there's there's
Mm.
there's safety in the 9 to 5. There's predictability in the 9 to 5. There's unpredictability and potentially lack of safety with going the entrepreneurial route. The positive outcome or the potential is sky high, but you got to get past the risk first. And so, those kids that were selling candy and didn't see it as risk, it's just as opportunity like that. I feel like if you have that born in you, you're one step ahead already.
Yeah, Michael, I just lost you. I don't know, it was
Oh,
my Wi-Fi. Yeah.
I was just saying, like, if you've got that kind of entrepreneurial spirit in you from a young age, it already puts you one step ahead because you're kind of pre-set to be over the fear factor or not concerned about the fear factor, ready to leave.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it is one of those things where it helps very early on to get those reps in. And I think that's usually anything, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, I think when you come from it and it's just sort of normalized for you, and at some point you just realize, Well, the truth is there is no safety. And ultimately, there's less safety in a 9 to 5 because there's so many outside controls that you can't control. Where, to your point, yeah, you get predictability. It's like, you go, they tell you what to do, and you do it, and it's predictable. Where the
Yeah.
entrepreneur, you wake up and you're like, wait, what am I doing today? And every day's a little bit different. There's no predictability. But ultimately, if you are um, determined, you can pivot and you can follow the market and ultimately have that agency and that control, at least more than you can in a 9 to 5. I don't know how much real control any of us really have in life, but that's what I
Sure.
would.
So, in terms of like getting started, like the Land Geek is one of the most recognizable brands in land acquisitions. You're a very well respected figure, entrenched in the space. But, at some point you were, sending out direct mailers and looking for your first deal, and you are a self-described ambitiously lazy geek. So what kind of drew you to land in the first place?
Well, it was really just the margins and the fact that I didn't have to deal with traditional headaches of real estate. So, I mean, I really had no business even owning a home. I'm not just like, I just don't like physical things. And I really like the idea of a system. And this was like, oh, wait, this is an inefficient market and I can create a system, which really appealed to the geeky side of me. And so, to your point, like, yeah, ambitiously lazy just means I want to make as much money and doing the least amount of work as possible. And so, this was actually that avenue that made a lot of sense for me because we have this massive market. There's really no competition when you think about how big the market is. Like, private equity groups, hedge funds, they're not playing in this space. And so it's just sort of like a numbers game, if you will. I know if I send out this many offers, I'm going to get this many returned offers accepted. Or if I send out
Mhm.
this much SMS, I'm going to get this many replies. And then when I'm doing my due diligence, I'll close this percentage. And when I close this percentage based on this, I'll be able to sell it. I'll sell it on terms. I'll get that passive income. And it's just math. And then all of a sudden, my passive income exceeds my fixed expenses. And then the game gets really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and as a business model, like you said, like it really comes down to systems. And all the most successful land investors that I know, and this is true for distressed property investors as well, when they have really dialed in systems, they're working on average less than 10 hours a week on their core business, sometimes as little as 5, right? Where they're checking in with their teams, they're making sure that the systems are functioning and they're profiting. Whereas in other industries, other businesses, especially if you're taking on, say, like a small business, and the CEO oftentimes is the head of marketing, the head of sales, the lead accountant, the CFO. They're doing all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the the hidden gem of this business is you can actually make it a business and not another job for yourself. Which start off the podcast, that's the dream.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, like, I understand that some people, when they get into entrepreneurial things, they just love the hustle, right? And so
Mhm.
if you've got a cash flowing business in land and you've freed up some time and you want to put that hustle towards other entrepreneurial money driven activities, you can. You can become an author, you can get into coaching, you can open up side businesses, you can start a software that you want to sell subscriptions for. Like, you can get into building multiple businesses and having a portfolio of businesses, or you can take that time and go learn how to play guitar or spend more time with your kids, or go on vacations. It's your choice of what to do with that time. And that is a pretty rare gift in life where people are able to actually have that kind of time to ask the question, well, what do I want to do with my time? Right.
Yeah, it is actually, you get to that point, it is an existential crisis. What do I want to do? And because our culture, we're sort of preconditioned or programmed at a very early age with the traditional school system. It's like, follow these directions, then, you're going to get to this point in a good school, you're going to go and get a good job, you're going to, live for your weekends, and you're going to save money in your 401k. Next thing you know, you're on that 40-40-40 plan, which is you work 40 hours a week for 40 years of your life to live on 40% of what you saved. And it kind of sucks. And so I
Yeah.
think that the land business, or to your point, like these entrepreneurial businesses shortcut that, and you can live your best life now. Not to make it say that it's easy. If you give yourself, a good 36 months, I think most people who go heads down in the land business can get to that point where they could be totally free,
Yeah.
and then have the privilege of having the existential crisis. What do I want to do with my time?
Yeah.
Do I want to
I
start
like
another
that.
business? Yeah.
The privilege of an existential crisis. Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you were, I mean, you said like 36 months to kind of get up to that place where you have that choice. When you were coming up as an early stage entrepreneur, what were your personal success metrics? Were you looking to hit certain financial targets? Were you looking to hit freedom of time targets? Like what were your success metrics going in?
Yeah. I mean, my burning desire was, I was an investment banker specializing in mergers and acquisitions with private equity groups, and I hated it. I had
Hmm.
a 45-minute commute to work and back, and I was micromanaged. So it was just, can I make enough money on this side hustle of raw land to quit my job? That
Yeah.
was the metric. And then once I hit that, then I was like, oh my gosh, I got this baby at home. I had a wife that didn't work. Now I've got to really grow this. And then the success metric for me was, well, can I create a business that gives me this time freedom so I can spend lots of time with my family? And I did. And that was the metric for me, was just creating enough passive income so that I could spend every waking moment with the family as they were growing up and not miss a thing.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that. Now that I'm older and my kids are older, during that time I was like, oh wait, I want to hustle again and grow, different businesses. And so I did that as well. Because even though my kids, I think I started Land Geek in 2011, but it was really a lifestyle business. I was
Yeah.
just, I was podcasting and, created a course and helping people, and I loved it. It was just very rewarding. It wasn't like, oh, I want to make a lot of money in Land Geek. It was like, this is really nice, fun thing I'm doing that is supporting my lifestyle.
Yeah. It, Getting into coaching, getting into mentorship, there's a great feeling in being able to help someone really kind of find this success path, and it's such a supportive community. No, I don't. I've said this multiple times on this show, but I can't think of another industry where people that are ostensibly your competition are so willing to say, "Sure, kid, come on, I'll show you how to do it. I'll give you some scripts and I'll give you some advice and I'll tell you what to watch out for." That really supportive entrepreneurial community that exists within land investing and distressed property investing is I think really unique and pretty great.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think it just goes to show the abundance mentality that most people have, is that they're really not your competition. There's plenty for everyone. And the market is just massive, and there's niches upon niches, and there's people that have different goals. and aspirations where, some person, their definition of success is, just covering their mortgage every month. Like that's enough for them. There's other
Yeah.
people that, their definition of success is $1 million a month.
Yeah.
And neither is wrong. It's just different pieces of complexity that you sign up for.
Yeah. So tell us about the Land Geek. I mean, we talked a little bit. You briefly mentioned like it was a lifestyle business and a kind of joy of mentorship back in 2011, but it's such an entrenched brand now. So what is the Land Geek today for listeners who may not be aware of it as, as a kind of entrenched brand in the space?
Yeah, I mean, the Land Geek has just a really simple mission to help as many people as possible solve not just their money problems, but their time problems.
Hmm.
And the argument being that once that's done, they can really live their best life, spend even more time with their family, spend even more time. We both love to travel, spend even more time, with charitable causes, and get to that point of privilege of, you know, that existential crisis. Like, what does my best life look like when I've
Yeah.
solved my money problems and solved my time problems? What do I want to do? And, how can we create this system and this program and this process so that people can shortcut it or smart cut it? Because certainly all the information's there, Michael, right? You don't need a course. No one needs to go through land geek training to be successful in the land business, but it does smart cut it for you and save you time and reduce your risk a bit. But
Yeah.
you don't need it.
No, you don't need it, but I genuinely believe that having really solid coaching or mentorship is it is a fast track to getting where you want to be. And so many people that come into investing either in distressed properties or land, um, they need success within the first 3 to 6 months. It's not a want, it's a
Mhm.
need, right? And if
Right.
if you're going it all alone and you're piecing it together with YouTube, it's not, and blogs and whatnot. It's not always going to answer all of your questions, and it's not going to provide you with a that that complementary backup of somebody being able to tell you, look, I make $500,000 a quarter at this business. I only closed one deal my first 6 months. Give it time, it will work. You're doing the right things. And having somebody there to just reassure you that even the most successful people sometimes started slow, because you and I both know people that are multimillionaires that closed one deal in the first 6 months. And then we know people that are multimillionaires that, or maybe not even doing as well now, but are still very successful, that just came out on fire and closed 200 grand worth of deals in the first 3 months or something. It's just sometimes the cookie crumbles that way. Sometimes it doesn't. But having a community or mentorship to kind of reassure you through that first little bit, I think there's a lot of value in
Oh no, for sure there is. I just think that it's one of those things where it's, when I'm saying it, it feels very self-serving. But I invest in myself. I've always gotten at a minimum of 10x return on any
that.
type
Yeah.
of coaching or training. It's like, if I want to get in shape, do I want to go to the gym by myself? Or do I want to meet the personal trainer? Because if I pay to that personal trainer, I'm showing up, I'm paying to pay attention, they're holding me accountable, they're correcting my form. I'm getting results 10 times faster. And when I do, to your point, feel like disappointed, like, oh, it's been 2 months, I'm not seeing any results. They're there to say, no, you're going to see it. This is normal, and you're on the right track. There's those lead measures and there's lag measures, and you just keep doing it. You're going to get to where you want. And you and I both know that there's so many people out there. They're so close to breaking through, and they quit too early, and it's just
Yes. Yeah.
heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's so, um, for people that are looking to get, started first 6 months or so, like you said, there's a ton of niches, and different mentors, different coaches have different paths to success in that first 6 months because it's what's worked for them, right?
Right.
So do you have a specific pipeline that you guys teach in Land Geek that has returned really great results for you? Or are you kind of multi-niche depending on what their goal set is?
Yeah, I mean, we really start off where the idea is, okay, you're new, let's just reduce your risk right away. And what's
Hmm.
your budget, right? So let's look at your budget and how can we get you 5 to 7 deals to start with? And then based on that budget, let's buy 5 to 7 properties and let's sell them very quickly. And so we can sell them very quickly if we do easy financing terms, right? If you've got a job, you can afford this raw land. And that's really the first sort of step in that process. Now, once you've built your passive income, you've got your reps in, you're building your confidence, then the question is, okay, what do you want to do? What are your goals? Where where do you want to take this? And so for some people, they want to do larger cash flips. That will solve their money problem. Where I would say, well, for me, I don't want to do a large cash flip because it doesn't solve my time problem. Once I sell that property, I want to do owner financing. So it just sort of depends on where they're at. But we work with people from all types of budgets and sophistication, where we take them from micro flipping all the way to minor subdivisions, and you know forcing appreciation. Buying 1,600 acres and subdividing it, and maybe putting in the roads, maybe not, and going from there.
Yeah. So once somebody is kind of really up and running, right? Their money worries aren't worries anymore.
Right.
And they're really trying to find that right balance of time and income and cash flow. What do you see as being kind of an avatar or ideal mix of like X percentage is flips, X percentage is owner financed, X percentage is larger scale deals, like maybe like for a subdivide, something like that. And I know it
Right.
varies market to market, but just blanket.
Yeah, I mean, I'm opportunistic with it. If I can buy the asset 25 to 40 cents on the dollar, I'll buy it. And so for the right deal, we have unlimited money, essentially.
Yeah,
And that's a mindset, right? Where because I've been doing this 25 years, I have that I know I can do it. Um, and so, but when you first start, you need to build up that confidence to go up that ladder of complexity, and you know and 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 be comfortable using other people's money,
yeah.
and building that part up. And so I'm really risk averse. We tell our clients, don't borrow any more than 50% of your land portfolio. Because I know if you get in trouble, you can sell your land portfolio 50 cents on the dollar to another
You're
investor
right.
really fast. And you can make your investors whole, and get yourself out of trouble if need be. And so really for me, I'm thinking of, what are the three levers I can pull for leverage, which is going to be other people's time, so inexpensive virtual assistants, software and automation, and then other people's money. And so really being super focused on making sure I'm building a real business for myself, and then I can move up into doing those bigger deals with other people's money because I've got
So
the
let's
systems and the team in place.
yeah, so let's talk about some action items around each one of those things. So uh, staffing, right? I think it's a big question for a lot of people coming in of what they want to staff up for versus what they should outsource. to existing services, or basically subject matter experts in, say, for instance, transaction coordination, or outsourcing to us at Launch Control for text marketing, and just having our launch leads done for you team do it, right? So for you,
Right.
for somebody who's let's kind of start in the middle, right? Not somebody who is just started their land business, got a handful of deals, wants to hire someone to do market analysis for them so they don't have to do it, but like in the middle, right, where you want to really start taking advantage of getting your time back, and pivot that time to something else. What are the kind of the staffing steps, 1, 2, 3, that you would suggest?
Yeah. So the first, my first hire is going to be, what do I hate doing the most? Right.
Yeah,
That's for sure, because I want the business to be joyful. Now, I would say for most people, after you've heard the story maybe 30 or 40 times of why that seller bought that property, what they were planning to do with it, and then, why they're selling it to you, that gets old and is not a great use of your time. And so the intake manager is typically the first hire. So they're
okay,
working with those sellers. Now, once you get your intake manager in place, you're going to be really sick and tired of posting those ads on the land platforms, the Facebook groups and the marketplace. Uh, and so then it's going to be my ad poster, virtual assistant. And then from there, I'm going to really get tired of qualifying those buyers as those leads come in. And then I want to get my sales assistant. And then finally, I'll I'll get my acquisition manager, your transaction coordinator, who manages that entire team of intake, marketing, and sales. And, and now I'm really freed up to, you know, really work on county research and then in closing. So those are the last two things I think of outsourcing with my acquisition manager, until I really feel confident that they understand where are the good markets based on my budget. And I've got somebody who's really motivated, really hungry, and I've got enough inventory to feed them and they can close
yeah.
deals.
Can you, for people listening, can you kind of provide a definition of what an intake manager does versus what an acquisitions manager does?
Yeah. So the intake manager handles the intake of leads. So if I'm doing an SMS campaign and a mailing campaign and they're responding, that's intake. And they're going to be compensated by either closing that deal in a certain amount of time or even renegotiating at a lower price. They'll get compensated on that. So it's a really great position to free myself out on my deal flow piece. So that's going to be my intake manager. They're handling the intake of deal flow. Where my acquisitions manager is more sort of like replacing me as the operator of the business. And they're more seasoned. They understand intake. They understand each part of the business, and they're compensated on the closing. They're sort of like our sales closer as well, but
Okay.
our manager too. Yeah.
And then in terms of, like, I think you refer to it as your ad poster, right? That
Mhm.
um, that I assume would take a certain amount of volume to fill that person's time, even if it were part time. Are you aware of any services that you could outsource that part to, or is that something that's kind of a necessary in-house hire?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think there's landvaforyou.com, there's landmasters.us, and all really the way I think about it is when you first start, it's a really good investment to get these agencies. They have these pre-trained virtual assistants. They understand the land business,
Yeah.
and they can start helping you create your SOPs, your playbooks, and then you're going to save money bringing in somebody in-house by doing that. So you kind of can start with an agency and then, shortcut the SOPs and playbooks because they provide all of that for you. You know what good looks like or good enough looks like, and then you bring someone in-house at a better wage.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got like a pretty solid compensation structure based around how many deals are closing, the sale rate for those deals, etc. So is that a pretty necessary component? Because I know that people get concerned with hiring somebody in house of having turnover, and then having to kind of repivot out of having their free time to going back to focusing on the business or to fill that gap. So do you find that you get a lot more longevity by having the right compensation structure in place?
Oh, 100%. There's that great Bob Parsons quote: "If you pay people peanuts, you get monkeys." And so, you want to compensate people, but you want to incentivize them as well, and you want to show them that this is a get wealthy strategy for them. It's
Yeah,
slow, right? The first year's not going to be great. You might want to start out part time, but then eventually, because they're getting a piece of that passive income when they're closing those deals, they see, oh my gosh, I'm going to get three just like Mark and Michael.
yeah. No, yeah, I think, and a lot of times, people that you're hiring are, they're coming from places where they're making, an hourly wage, but not necessarily the highest hourly wage. So it might
Right.
be the first time they've gotten it really exposure to a commission structure and how fast that can add up based on the success metrics of a business. And if you're looking at, hiring somebody who suddenly has access to 50, 60, 100% more income than they previously had, that's life changing. They might not be as wealthy as you are as the business owner, but like that's how business ownership works, right? The best salesperson in the organization doesn't make as much money as the owner of the company, obviously, right? So,
Right, right, but
but
they make really good money.
but they make really good money
Really good
with
money.
zero risk, no risk,
Right.
you know. So
Exactly. Yeah, 100%.
uh, so in terms of people who are working with the Land Geek or part of the Land Geek community, what's your spread in terms of people that are new to land investing, those that are, kind of in a comfort middle zone sweet spot, and those that are just crushing it, making tons of money?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we see the full spectrum in Land Geek. And when you first come in, you might get our introductory program, which is called Flight School. And then as you level up, you go into coaching, maybe one-on-one coaching. And then like you're a seasoned vet, you go into our unfair advantage, which is, way more, um, we're doing more complex deals together, sort of a mastermind component in the group. So we see the full spectrum, but it's just like any funnel, where, you know, it's, you get a lot of people who are real excited about land investing in the beginning. Then they're like, oh my gosh, this is actually hard. And then,
Right.
it's like, oh, it's like, then I'm like, wait, but everything worth doing is hard. Um,
No, of course.
yeah,
So we have at Launch Control, we have a very similar spread. And
yeah,
we have subscription packages of our light package, core, and then pro. Light package, most people on our light package are new to investing either in distressed properties or land, and they're just really trying to get up enough cash flow typically so that they can do what you did, right? Like what's my mark where I can quit my job and this can be my full-time income, right?
right.
Some like you said, some are just paying the mortgage or covering fun expenses or whatever, but the vast majority want to use this as a vehicle to exit whatever their current income structure is. People that are in the core are, they've got good businesses that are usually somewhere between 12 to 24 months old, and they're starting to scale up, starting to staff up, that kind of thing. And then anything above that, they're well entrenched business owners that have a team and are making a bunch of money. So let's take each one of those as a use case with the Land Geek and say, a light user from Launch Control starts working with the Land Geek. What's their day to day or month to month going to look like in terms of how they would be interacting with the community?
Yeah. So someone who's just starting, they're getting their reps in and they're doing every aspect of the business. Think about it like a McDonald's franchise. I want to buy a McDonald's franchise. They're going to make me work in that business for a year, even though I'm going to be the owner. And I'm going to know every aspect of that business. So I know what good looks like. And I can say, I'm not abdicating the hamburger flipping now. I'm delegating the hamburger flipping because I know how to flip hamburgers. And so it's the same thing in the land business. I know what a good county looks like based on my budget. I know how many offers I need to send out. I know how to run the software. I know how to deal with the sellers. I know how to market. I know how to deal with the buyers. I know what a good marketing ad looks like, and I'm doing it in the beginning. Now, as I'm doing it, I'm creating a playbook to get myself out of it so that I can hire up. But that's how I'm starting. And so if I'm using launch control, I'm learning that system and I know what's effective. And I'm creating a strategy where I'm mailing and then I'm texting and then I'm texting again. And then maybe I'm calling, right? And
Yeah.
I'm getting a really high ROI. I know my ROI is on that lead or on that mailing list. And I know which counties are going to be more effective for me and not. And then I'm going to create that SOP for my to replace myself. And so we call it a swim lane. So I create that swim lane for that new hire. And so I'm doing
Uh,
that all along the line.
I love that because it's often what happens is, people get so focused on closing that I think you quoted 5 to 7 deals. They
Mhm.
get so focused on closing those initial deals and doing it all themselves that they don't pre-think about the swim lane, right? And so then it becomes okay, well now I do everything myself, but I don't have any SOPs and I don't have any real like concept of how I'm gonna offload this. And so then it becomes this big ball of stress that hits them after they hit a certain success metric, right? So I love the
Yeah.
idea of starting early with that and just really planning to be very, very successful at this and thinking about how you're going to get there in terms of what you don't want to do or what you're not very good at. And so you can keep your focus on your core strengths.
No, absolutely. I mean, the truth is that you can't fail in the land business only if you quit. Like on a long enough timeline, everyone gets paid in this business.
Yeah.
Everyone. But you have to be able to stick with it long enough.
No, I love that. Okay, so let's carry on that same track. So
Right.
someone that's a core user at Launch Control, they're at that point where they're probably looking to kind of, I don't know if this is the right follow through on the analogy, but they're looking to jump into that swim lane and kind of,
Yeah.
offload a few things. So what's their experience like, and what are they gaining from being part of the community?
Yeah. So that core user is really working on being the executive of that business and they're working their way up to CEO and they're really mindful of the activities that they're doing. Am I doing a $10 an hour activity or am I doing a $100 activity? How do I get to go into a $5,000 an hour activity? And so that core user's really mindfully creating a true systematized, process driven, metric driven business. And they're getting out of the day to day work.
And so you guys can really kind of help people who might be a bit stuck on how to do that, on some proven strategies on how to start, exiting those $10 an hour tasks
Oh,
and
yeah, I
really.
mean, that's the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because we'll just, and so much of it is just accountability. And
Yeah.
people have to kind of get out of that comfort zone because they've never hired somebody.
Right.
And there's all these types of sort of, you know, issues that go with that. Is this person going to care as much as me? Am I leading them correctly? And so we talk about that 30 to 1 ratio, which is if it takes me 5 minutes to do that task, I'm really going to dedicate 150 minutes of training for that person. And then I'll evaluate if they're a good fit or not. And
See,
so, you know, two is one and one is none. I also want to have a
yeah.
backup as well.
This is a perfect example of, again, why mentorship and community is so important, because, like you said earlier, like, if you did well in your land business, could you go out and hire a VA to do a few things and train them how to do it? Sure, you could. But if you've never hired anyone before, then you don't know the tripping points, right? You don't know the tripping points about the interview process. You don't know the tripping points about really sourcing their abilities, or analyzing their abilities. You don't know the tripping points about getting them trained. You don't, like, all of that stuff. If you need education on how to do those things, so that you can shortcut that whole process. So it becomes really, really important that you have that advice from somebody that's been there and done that, you know?
No, 100%. I mean, the truth is we can always make more money. We can't get more time.
Yeah,
And so, finding those time saving techniques and strategies is priceless.
absolutely. So the last one of these, I'm really curious about, are say, like, pro and enterprise users, all of whom are doing very well financially. I think that there's a bit of a misunderstanding sometimes, that people think when you hit that level of success, you don't need mentorship anymore. You don't need help. You've got it all figured out. But
Yeah.
I don't know a single person, that even the multi millionaires, that feel like they have it all figured out, right? Like, everybody is looking
No.
for advice and help. And so for those people, like, how are you working with the big boys in the community, and what's that process look like?
Yeah. So the big boys, it's all about thinking bigger and being a better CEO, being a better leader, and how my, really it's deal structure, right?
Yeah.
And in managing other people's money. Am I going to do a fund? Am I going to do a debt fund? Am I going to do an equity fund? Am I going to do partnerships? How am I structuring these deals? Because I want to go bigger, and to go bigger, I need more money. And
Yeah.
if I'm going to do bigger deals, I need bigger teams, right? And so I like, where are my constraints? And so it's always like, okay, where's my constraint to that next level of growth? It's like a video game, right? Yeah, each level gets a little bit harder. And to your point, it's so true. Like when that is the sort of like the entrepreneurial trap, is when you think you've got it figured out. Like that's where success can get really scary. And you get complacent, and you're like, wait, um, why did I self sabotage myself? Why did I stop learning and growing at that point? And you know, that's it's you see it happen, and then people, I think, I don't know, like the psychotherapist to me thinks like they miss the the rush of it in the beginning, and they sabotage themselves. They stop getting mentorship, they stop growing, and
Yeah.
then they go back and try to do it again. I
Yeah.
could
And
be
it's
wrong. I don't know. Maybe
no,
it's
no,
ego. I don't know.
no, absolutely. And the thing is, like, once you get to a comfort place, right, where you've got plenty of money coming in, cash flow is coming in, you've got some deals on owner financing, like, you could literally just walk away from the business pretty much, and live off of it, right? You get to that point. But
Right.
you also, you've been in the business long enough that you know what the other niches are, and the really fun, creative things that the people that have freed up enough money and time are getting into, that you can really start to get kind of experimental in a way, and try some new things. Like, I was talking to Seth Williams from RE Tipster a couple months back, and he was telling me about, like, somebody had bought some land, like, not far off the highway, middle of nowhere, and is making a bunch of money having it as a rented pit stop for truckers along their route. And it's just easy passive income, where they're I think they're paying monthly rates to be able to park there in the middle of nowhere. in the middle of their route. So people
Right.
get into some very interesting creative things when they've freed up time, but each one of those comes with its own new learning curve, right? Little mini learning curve. So there's always a chance to learn more, always a chance to earn more. It just depends on how creative you want to be with it.
No, 100%. 100%.
So we talked about the Land Geek a lot. We haven't talked about the fact that you're also a famous author. So do you want to tell people about Dirt Rich and kind of what made you decide to put pen to paper?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Dirt Rich is a little bit about my story and the fundamentals of the land business. And Dirt Rich 2 is how to scale your land business. A lot about what we were talking about. And for me as an author, I just thought it was a great way to educate, but also a legacy, right? That's the great thing about a book is it lives beyond me. And so now I'm writing my third book, Dirt Rich Forever, which is more going to be like a mindset book. So,
Okay.
I really like the process. It's the worst thing in the world though, when the publisher's like, you need to lock your script and you can't make any more changes. That part's
Yeah.
miserable. But I process of getting my thoughts down on paper, for sure. And actually, for your listeners, I'll offer them Dirt Rich for free, just pay shipping.
Oh, really? Oh, that's an
Yeah,
amazing deal. All right.
yeah,
Well, I'll get that link from you so that they can take advantage of that. We're going to put that in the show notes below. So for everybody listening in, head down to the show notes. We'll have that link for you to get your free copy of Dirt Rich, and just pay the shipping. Won't cost you much.
awesome.
Cool. So, for anybody that is, in our listening audience, they know if they want to get involved with Launch Control, they just go to launchcontrol.us and book a time with our sales team and just talk about their goals and needs. So, what's the equivalent for you guys over at Land Geek? What do they do if they want to get involved with the community, regardless of what stage they're at in their business?
Yeah, if they just go to thelandgeek.com, they can, navigate their way into scheduling a call. And it's not like a sales call. We're just going to consult with you and see what your goals are and see if we're a good fit to help you reach those goals faster and more safely.
Perfect. All right. So again, we'll put that in the show notes as well. Everybody will have that. I think we got a lot of really great insights from you today, Mark, on it for everyone, at whatever stage they're at. They're just getting started, scaling up, have already scaled, and are really just looking to go bigger. Some great actionable steps for everyone there, and some guidance on where to go next. Right? Did we miss anything? Anything else you wanna let people know about before we wrap it up today?
Michael, you're an incredible podcast host. This has been a true pleasure.
Oh,
No,
well, I
I think
appreciate
we're
that.
good, brother.
All right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, sir. I will not keep you any longer. You are in the Italian Alps, and it would just be rude of me to do so. So I'm going to let you go, but I very much appreciate you coming on. It's been great.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate you.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.